Hello everyone, welcome to my lecture. I hope all you are doing very well. In this video, I'm going to introduce individual customer level profitability metrics. Are you ready? Then let's get started. We've learned several traditional profitability metrics, including market share, sales growth, acquisition and retention metrics. Those metrics are easy and intuitive, so they have been widely used in practice. However, they do not provide any individual customer level information. Market share and sales growth are good to see overall performance of a firm across all customers in a market. Acquisition and retention metrics are more granular, giving us guidance of how to balance between acquisition and retention activities. But they are still on campaign by campaign basis, not on individual customer basis. So the question we have now is how to measure individual customers' profitability. There are several metrics based on each customer's purchase history. During this lecture, I'm going to introduce these metrics in gray. They are sometimes called popular customer-based value metrics because of their intuitive nature. Of course, there are lots of metrics that can be classified into this category, but I will introduce these four metrics: size of wallet, share of category requirement, and transition metrics. First, let me give you a conceptual explanation of those metrics. Suppose that there are two friends, John and David. John is a single person who spends about $1,000 for grocery per month. David is a single daddy of 3 children, spending about $4,000 for grocery per month. So David spends more than John. That is, David would be a more attractive customer to grocery stores. But how about this? John always do his grocery shopping at Kroger near his house, whereas David usually shops Whole Foods and Walmart as well as Kroger and spends only 10% of his grocery budget at Kroger. That is, as in the figure, John has a smaller budget but spends all of it at Kroger, which equals $1,000. But David spends only $400, although he has a larger budget than John. So, for Kroger, we can say that John is more attractive than David. This example implies that a customer's profitability can be decomposed into two components. One is size of wallet, which is the amount of money spent in total in a market. The other is share of wallet, which is out of the budget spent, how much the customer spends for each firm or each brand. In this example, John's size of wallet is $1,000 and David's size of wallet is $4,000. But John's share of wallet for Kroger is 100%, whereas David's share of wallet for Kroger is only 10%. This huge difference in the share of wallet made John become more attractive than David, although he has a smaller budget than David. These metrics indicate potential and loyalty of a customer. Size of wallet gauges the revenues and profits expected from a customer. This is simple. We may expect around $1,000 from John, but $4,000 from David in the next month. And share of wallet indicates customer loyalty Because if a customer is loyal to a store, she may visit the store again and again and again, like John. This decomposition of profitability provides us with a framework of segmentation. Suppose that there are two more friends, Zach and Tony, and the figure plots those four friends into the two-dimension space of size of wallet and share of wallet. John is here. His size of wallet is relatively small, about $1,000, but his share of wallet is high, 100%, meaning that he always do grocery shopping at Kroger. David is here, the other side in both size of wallet and share of wallet. And here is Tony. He spends as much as David does, but always in Kroger like John. So his size of wallet and share of wallet both are high. But Zach's budget is as small as John's one, and he rarely visits Kroger for grocery shopping like David. So his size of wallet and share of wallet both are low. Then let's think of a good strategy for John. He always shops at Kroger. That is, he is a very loyal customer. So we have to keep this customer for the next time. Then, how about Tony? He's also a loyal customer. Furthermore, his spending level is much higher. That means he is highly likely to be targeted by competitors. So, we have to keep this customer, and moreover, we may need to proactively protect him from the competitors. Then, how about David? He also spends a large amount of money like Tony. However, David is currently not actively spending money at Kroger. So, if Kroger can make him spend more at Kroger instead of competing stores, significant additional revenues will be expected. There are various options of the marketing activity for him, including promotion coupons, flyers, rebates, cashback, and etc. Lastly, how about Jack? He has low size of wallet and low share of wallet. Of course, it would be possible to do marketing activity for Zach as well as David. But unlike David, Zach is not expected to generate a significant increase in revenues. So, with consideration of marketing costs, it would be better to do nothing for Zach. Trying something for him would be wasting money. So far, I have introduced two key concepts of individual customers' profitability, size of wallet, and share of wallet. Particularly, share of wallet gauges the importance of a firm or a brand compared to each competitors. However, a customer changes her mind between different firms and brands over time. That is, a customer may switch the firm and brand. Share of wallet does not provide any details of the brand switching behaviors. It is just a certain number which results from the customer's brand switching over time. Transition matrix is a useful tool to discover the details of brand switching behaviors. It characterizes a customer's likelihood to buy or a brand's likelihood to be bought over time. It is a two-dimensional matrix of elements. Each element is the probability of buying a brand next time, conditional on the current brand choice. Here is an example. This table shows a transition matrix for 3 orange juice brands: Florida's Natural, Simply Orange, and Tropicana. The row indicates which brand the customer currently buys, and the column indicates which brand is expected to be bought by the customer. And each element of the matrix is a probability of brand switching. For example, suppose that the customer bought Florida's Natural this time. The current purchased brand is Florida's Natural, so we need to look at the row of Florida's Natural. Then, let's think of the probability of Florida's Natural being purchased again next time. The brand purchased next time is Florida's Natural, so we need to look at the column of Florida's Natural in the row of Florida's Natural. That is this 70%. Consider another example. Again, suppose that the customer bought Florida's Natural this time, so we still need to look at the row of Florida's Natural. Then, let's think of the probability of switching the brand from Florida's Natural to Simply Orange. The brand purchased next time is Simply Orange, so we need to look at the column of Simply Orange in the row of Florida's Naturals. That is this 25%. So, a transition matrix has 2 different types of probabilities in it. First, the diagonal elements. For the diagonal element, the brand purchased next time is the same as the brand currently purchased. That is, the diagonal elements are the probabilities of buying the same brand again. In this example, the customer buys Florida's Natural again with 70% of probability once she bought Florida's Natural. As for Simply Orange, the probability of buying again is 80%, and it is only 60% for Tropicana. So, we can say that Simply Orange is the strongest to keep the customers, but Tropicana is the weakest to retain the customers. In other words, the less the diagonal probability, the more the vulnerable to competition. The other type of probabilities in a transition matrix is the off-diagonal elements. They indicate probabilities of brand switching. Let's look at the table column-wise. Each column indicates each brand to be purchased next time. So, the off-diagonal probabilities in each column means the probability of brand switching from the competitors to each brand. For example, let's look at the column of Florida's Natural. Its off-diagonal probabilities are 10% and 25%. 10% means the probability of switching brand from Simply Orange to Florida's Natural, and 25% means that from Tropicana to Florida's Natural. If those probabilities are high, that brand has competitive advantage to steal the customers from the competitors. Alright, so far I gave you a conceptual explanation of the matrix. In the remaining part of this lecture, I'm going to explain the technical details of the matrix. First, size of wallet. Its mathematical definition is simple. Think of a customer I, and this customer size of wallet is given by the sum of sales to this customer by all firms in the market. Let J denote a firm in the market and capital J be the total number of firms in the market. And then the size of wallet is given by this equation. You can also find this definition in our textbook with other examples. Second, share of wallet. There are two versions of share of wallet. One is each individual customer's share of wallet for a firm or a brand. For customer I and brand K, individual share of wallet is the proportion of the sales to this customer by the firm out of her size of wallet. You can see that this formula is exactly the same as 100% of John's spending at Kroger and 10% of David's spending at Kroger. Please note that the individual share of wallet is defined for each customer and firm pair. If we have 10 customers and 10 firms, we have 10 times 10, 100 pairs of customers and firms, and we have 100 individual share of wallet values. Let's look at the equation again. It looks like very similar to market share because the numerator is the total sales of a specific firm and the denominator seems the total sales of all firms. So sometimes we need a good summary of those different numbers across different individuals by each of the firms. The second version of share of wallet is aggregate share of wallet, which summarizes the individual share of wallet values by firms. So it is defined for each firm or brand, and it is given by the sum of sales to all customers by the focal firm divided by the sum of size of wallets of all customers. Through this aggregation, we can summarize the individual customer's share of wallet across all customers of the focal firm. As the individual share of wallet sheds light on the importance of the firm in the customer's expenditures, the aggregate share of wallet can be viewed as a summary measure of the importance of the firm. But the aggregate share of wallet looks like very similar to market share. But it is entirely different from market share. Here is an example. Consider these 3 customers and 3 brands. When we compute market share, all of these customers enter the computation. Market share of brand A is given by the sum of sales to all customers by brand A divided by the sum of all sales in this market, which equals the sum of 200, 600, and 0 divided by the total sales, $2,400. This is about 33.3%. However, customer 3 does not enter the computation of the aggregate share of wallet for brand A. The reason is that she didn't purchase brand A at all, and therefore she is not a customer of brand A. So, the aggregate share of wallet for brand A is given by the sum of sales of brand A to its customers divided by the sum of all sales of all brands to brand A's customers. This equals 200 plus 600 divided by the size of wallet of customer 1, which is $1,000, plus the size of wallet of customer 2, which is $900. So 800 divided by 1900, which is about 42.1%. Because the customers who never purchase the brand are excluded in the calculation of share of wallet for the brand, the aggregate share of wallet is entirely different from market share. So, from the managerial perspective, market share indicates the overall performance of a firm or a brand, whereas the aggregate share of wallet indicates the healthiness or customer loyalty of the firm or the brand. One interesting question is, what about the brand with low market share but high aggregate share of wallet? This brand is a niche player due to its low market share, but the customer loyalty toward this brand is high due to the high aggregate share of wallet. So we can say that this brand is running a small yet sustainable business. Next, there is a variation of the share of wallet, share of category requirement. This metric is almost the same as the share of wallet. It just replaces the purchase volumes for sales values in calculation. The aggregate share of category requirement can be defined in the same manner. The relationship between share of wallet versus share of category requirement is the same as the relationship between the market share in sales versus market share in volume. This table simply summarizes those four metrics. Market share includes non-buyers of a brand. When focusing on sales values, we have market share in sales or sales shares. When focusing on the number of units sold, we have market share in volume or volume share. However, share of wallet and share of category requirement exclude the non-buyers of a brand. When focusing on sales values, we have share of wallet. When focusing on the number of units sold, we have share of category requirement. Then, when should we use share of category requirement instead of share of wallet? The share of category requirement is suitable for the categories where the variance of customer expenditures is relatively small. Let's think about consumer packaged goods in grocery stores like soda. Warren Buffett, the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, drinks the same Coke as I drink. That is, regular soda drinkers spend a similar amount of money for soda. So, purchase volume may provide the same information as sales. On the other hand, the share of wallet is good for the categories where the variance of customer expenditures is relatively high. Let's think about fashion items. Here is one of the most famous soccer players, Cristiano Ronaldo, and his girlfriend. He is also a fashion icon, even though sometimes he wears so awkwardly, with lots of luxury brands like this Louis Vuitton shirt. Definitely, his spending level for clothes is much greater than mine. If that's the case, purchase volume may distort information of individual customer spending. So, we need to look at share of wallet instead of share of category requirement. Alright, that's all I have in this lecture, and let me wrap up with a short summary. Customer profitability can be decomposed into two components. One is size of wallet, and the other is share of wallet. High size of wallet or high share of wallet does not necessarily mean substantial revenues and profits. High revenues and profits are expected only if both of them are high. So, firms make optimal resource allocation decisions only by segmenting customers along the two dimensions, size of wallet and share of wallet, simultaneously. And transition matrix is an intuitive way to display customers' brand switching behaviors.